Alex Burghart, do the revelations about Andrew Gwynne not just bring the Labour Party into disrepute, but the whole of politics?
I think they do, actually, Trevor. I think that on one level, what we see here is just sort of quite a nasty attempt to do down an elderly person in Mr Gwynne's constituency, which sort of reflects the attitude that the Labour Party seems to have to elderly voters generally. You know, Labour lied to them about, what they were going to do to winter fuel. They lied to them about sort of various things in the budget which affect them. And so, not that surprised to see it. I think what's actually more sinister is that in one of Mr Gwynne's tweets, he refers to a constituent as being too Jewish. And that really does suggest that just beneath the surface, between all the sort of the window dressing that Keir Starmer's done, that with senior Labour politicians, there may still be a very serious problem with antisemitism, and I hope that the Prime Minister will get to grips with that immediately.
Well, to be fair, he has sacked the chap pretty instantly, which was not a feature of the Conservative Party's behaviour in government.
He sacked and suspended Mr Gwynne, right? But that was a big WhatsApp group with a lot of other Labour members on. Did any of them step in at the time? Did any of them call that out? That is a very serious remark. And if the Prime Minister doesn't take action against everyone in that group very quickly, we know that there is still a problem in the Labour Party.
Well, that is a matter for the Labour Party, and no doubt I and others will be talking to them about that. But I just really wanted to get your take on whether this adds to the sort of general cynicism about politicians, that they say one thing here in an interview publicly, but actually amongst themselves, they're sneering at
remarks like this don't do anyone any favours, right? And I hate the idea that people will look at that and think that's what all politicians think about voters. I know that that's not how the vast majority of MPs think about people in their constituencies. Okay. But I say there's something much more serious at the heart of this, and I hope that Keir Starmer is going to get to grips with it.
All right, let's talk about your leader. She said this week that under a Conservative government, immigrants who claim benefits or use social housing would no longer be allowed to apply for indefinite leave to remain in the UK. So they get kicked out of the country.
Yep. So last year, Kemi made our first announcement on immigration, saying that new Conservative government would have a hard cap on the number of visas that could be issued every year.
By the way, what is that cap going to be?
Well, considerably. It depends on the circumstance at the time, but very, very considerably lower than we are now. What she said. What she said this week, which is a development of that, is that we have a lot of people coming through the immigration system at the moment, who, after 5 years here, will be entitled to apply for indefinite leave to remain, and at that point, you run the risk of being on the path to citizenship. Citizenship, we think in the Conservative Party, is something extremely precious. It should never be given out lightly. It should be something that is valued by both the country and by the person receiving it. Yep. And so we're extending that process, saying that you have an extra 5 years until you get indefinite leave to remain, and then it would be an additional 5 years beyond that before you could apply for citizenship. And you'll probably have seen on the front page of Telegraph this morning, Trevor, that the Centre for Policy Studies has done a piece of work that has said without this, there is a potential £200 billion liability to the UK in terms of cost
we could get into
services.
a lengthy discussion about the validity of that number, but I just want to come back to a specific number. There's going to be a cap if there were a Conservative government. What would it be? Would it be in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or what?
Yeah, you know that we're not setting that out this time, but that we have said that it will be very, very considerably lower than where we are today. So we understand.
I'm puzzled when you guys do this. You say, I'm not going to tell you the number, but it's going to be a lot lower. How do you know it's going to be a lot lower if you don't have a number?
Because we currently have
and how do voters know?
We have an unprecedented surge. We will set that out nearer the time, but we have an unprecedented surge coming through the immigration system. Kemi's been clear that that's unacceptable, that it can't continue, and we're taking action, whereas the Labour government is not.
All right. Look, one of the things that she said is that you want to remove those who are not net contributors.
Yeah, let's say
what
that
are your criteria for net contribution to society?
Well, if you're taking more out of the system than you're putting in, let's say that if you're out of work, you're clearly in that situation. So we want people who, when they're here for the long term, they are contributing to the UK economy. Let's say that they're putting more in than they're taking out, and that's why we've said that we'll set out criteria that achieves that.
So the Conservative Party view about contribution to society is that it's really all about money. If you are taking more in money than you are putting in, then you are not contributing. What does that say to a low-paid social care worker or a nurse?
If a UK citizen, entirely different.
Foreign. Most of the people in those categories are foreign. No?
We're saying that people who want to stay in this country long term should be making a net contribution to the country. I don't think that that is unreasonable at all. Nobody has an automatic right to come and be part of the wonderful society that we have here in the UK. It's right that there are strict criteria, firstly on people who can come, secondly on people who can stay here long term, and thirdly on people who can be citizens.
2 weeks ago, your leader sat in that seat and said to me that she wouldn't be rushed into announcing new policies. Less than 2 weeks later, she's holding forth on how to get immigration numbers down. You're being panicked by polls showing reform ahead.
Absolutely not. You'll have heard, because I know you follow these things very closely, Trevor, you'll have heard what Kemi said at the outset.
I listen to every word you say.
I know you do. You're extremely attentive. And that's why you will have heard her say last year that the vast bulk of our policy work requires incredibly deep thinking. But there are also
And then I heard her say last week, I'm going to give you a policy on something that I said 10 days ago I'm not going to give you a policy on.
So, no, that's not that. She never said that there wasn't going to be further policy on immigration.
She sat there and she said to me, I am not going to issue policies. There's 4 years to go. That's it. She sat there.
What she said when she first became leader was that it was clear that we would have to have policies in certain areas when the Labour Party was confronted with hard choices. So right now, if the Labour Party doesn't change its policy on immigration soon, there will be very, very large numbers of people who get indefinite leave to remain. If we don't speak out against that now, the Labour Party will miss that opportunity. We are going to make an amendment to the Borders and Security Bill tomorrow that the Labour Party will have to vote on. So it's not that we're not going to say anything for 4 years. Okay. It's just that there's a certain opportunity that you get from being in opposition, which means you get to do the deep thinking, which, quite frankly, Labour did not do when it was in opposition.
Some of your colleagues are now telling newspapers that it's time to start talking to Mr. Nigel Farage. And it's hard to see how you get back into power without either eliminating reform or doing a deal with them. Why not rip the plaster off? Get talking to Mr. Farage. You can look at the numbers here. If Labour is as terrible as you keep telling me now, it's your patriotic duty to get together with Nigel Farage, isn't it?
Well, my duty as a member of the Conservative Party is to try and get a Conservative government back at the end of this Parliament.
But you're never going to get that without a deal with Farage.
I'm not such a pessimist as you are, Trevor. I think that there is a lot.
I'm just dealing with objective evidence.
You said we're never going to do it, and I say, that's kind of that's a bit gloomy. There is a long, long way to go in this Parliament. You have 4 years. 4 years in which a lot of things are going to happen that we can't foresee, that you can't foresee, even you can't foresee, Trevor. I believe that we have in Kemi new leadership, someone who has the opportunity to be a real visionary, someone who has the opportunity to take the Conservative Party and the country into a very exciting direction, and also to those people who think there should be a deal with reform. Nigel Farage has said that his purpose is to destroy the Conservative Party. Now, that makes for a pretty difficult first date, doesn't it? So I don't, this is the sort of speculation that crops up when there's nothing else to write in the paper.
Let's just get this absolutely clear. Let us suppose that Nigel Farage said, Actually, when I said I want to destroy the Conservative Party, I don't mean destroy the Conservative Party. I want to work with the Conservative Party, and he said that at other times.
Yeah, I mean,
are you completely ruling out the possibility that the Conservative Party may reach an understanding, accommodation with reform?
Yeah, OK, well, let's extend my analogy a bit further. So you go on a first date and somebody says, I want to destroy you. And then slightly later in the first date, they say, oh, no, forget what I said at the start. Okay. I mean, this is... No, look, come on. This is not...
Are we talking no deal ever?
This is not a sort of...
You're not saying there's no deal ever?
This is not a sensible conversation, Trevor.
It's a conversation some of your colleagues are having.
The fact is that at the moment there's one party that has said that it wants to completely take us out. We are on a mission to try and get a Conservative majority at the next election, and that's what we're going to do under Kemi.
What's lovely about this is that you are going a million miles round the answer to the simple question, would you rule out any deal with reform ever?
That is not a question for me, Trevor. I'm not that important. I don't get to make that call. But what I can tell you is that we have in Kemi someone who I think can get us a Conservative majority at the next election, and that's what I'd rather have.
Alex Burghart, thank you so much for your time this morning.